Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I love that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Newcastle podcast. I thought you'd like that, something a bit different. As if you can't tell, Newcastle United qualified for the Champions League on Sunday afternoon. It's now Monday morning. I, Michael Grahamslaw, I'm your host today. I sound a lot happier than I was yesterday, but we'll get into that. And today, I'm joined by Joanne Ayres and Nicola Pringle-Adams, the two hungover sisters of the Daily Newcastle podcast. We'll start with you, Nick. How's it going?
It's good. I'm feeling very fragile. Very, very fragile.
Well, I hope you can last the length of the podcast, which should be about 30, 40 minutes. We're going to be okay?
I'll be fine. I'm all good.
Fantastic. And what about you, Joe? How are you doing?
I'm good. I've had multiple coffees and a sausage sandwich and some hash browns and other things. So yeah, I'm fueled. I'm good
there
to go
we
for
are.
at least a good half an hour, 45 minutes.
Good to go. Happy days. Well, I hope you don't crash too early, so we're going to get straight into it. So naturally, we're going to review the game, which ended with Everton picking up a 1-0 win at St James's Park, unfortunately. Back-to-back end-of-season home defeats against Everton. The last was when we finished 5th under Alan Pardew. The beat were 3-1. Actually, it wasn't at home, but back-to-back defeats against Everton. But first of all, Joe, when the final whistle blows, how did you feel? Were you happy that Champions League was available, or were you, well, that was a bit shit?
It was the weirdest kind of entry into the Champions League I've experienced, that's for damn sure. It wasn't the kind of elation that we had from 2 seasons ago. It was we were happy, right? But the stadium was weird as well. It's like some people were kind of chanting, some people were just clapping, some people were kind of looking at each other a bit confused. Then we were looking down on the pitch, and the players were obviously confused because they didn't know that Man U were 2-0 up against Villa either. So you could see that they were like, oh my God, like we've went and lost it type of thing. But then you could see kind of people running back and forwards. I think Barnes ran across and he must have filtered some news across. But then it was great when they then just started playing the Champions League theme, and, everyone got into it at that point. So yeah, we all cheered up at that point. The players were bouncing. We started bouncing a bit, and everyone was just like, oh, screw it. I know we lost, but yeah, we're in the Champions League again. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that was the general consensus.
Fair enough. And Nicola, is it the most underwhelming way to qualify for a Champions League? But do we expect anything else from Newcastle United?
Well, they don't make it easy, do they? It's the most Newcastle United way to get into the Champions League. Rely on a win. We don't win. And then we have to rely on Man United to beat Villa, which surprisingly they did. And it was a Mackham who scored a goal. So I'm just like, what in what world does that happen? Yeah, cheers. So it's been a hell of a weekend, guys. So it was the most Newcastle way to enter the Champions League. And I was at a wedding yesterday, so when that news filtered through around the table that I was sitting on, you can imagine how elated I was after a few drinks. So it was the most Newcastle United way, probably very underwhelming, but let's just get straight to it. It's what it's about. We're back. Who cares? Who cares? Forget about the result. It's been a cracking season overall. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sort of reminded me a little bit of in the Championship when we won the league on the last day, Jack Grealish scoring, and it was actually Villa that did us the favour that day, and it was them that ultimately suffered this time around. But yeah, if there was ever a way not to qualify for the Champions League, this was probably it. And to be honest, from the looks of Eddie Howe and Kieran Trippier afterwards, the players know it. Nobody needs to tell them it wasn't good enough on the day. But when as he said, when the Champions League anthem hit, when the players' kids came onto the pitch and their wives, the family was all celebrating together. Honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. It brings tears to the eye. And then obviously the owners were there as well, and they congratulated. But do you think maybe just having the owners there, Joe, was that as things transpired, was it actually potentially a good thing? We still qualified, but we showed the owners that Eddie Howe's done a brilliant job with that squad, and he needs backed immediately. What do you think?
Yeah, it might be, I don't know, just something that, I know it's strange to say we needed to lose. We didn't need to lose, but it's almost like a kick up the backside to say that, look, this is what's been achieved, like you say, with a thin squad at the end of the day. But look at how close it was to not being achieved because of the fact we've got a thin squad.
Yeah.
So it might just be that little silver lining, if you want to call it, in terms of this so-called big summer ahead that we're going to have, to just make it really big. Really, let's go extra. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Nick, the kind of the players like Jacob Murphy, I know we all love him on this podcast, and Dan Burn, they've had fantastic seasons, and you can see Newcastle fills their hearts. But it's one of those that towards the end of the season we've kind of seen, right, they had their purple patches, but as general players, if you're looking for top 4, top 6, they can't really be starting. Would you agree with that statement?
It's hard because they do bring so much to the squad, don't they? And I feel bad saying this, particularly like you say, in players like Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy, after the season they have had this season, it's been incredible for them. I still think obviously they deserve to start, but I do agree in relation to the owners have to fully back Eddie this summer, and start spending some money. I mean, I know obviously you've got all the PSR rules that change almost hourly, but he really needs back, and I really hope they kind of not learnt their lesson, because obviously I know we're 2 seasons on, but from the last time we were in Champions League football, look how many injuries we got, look at the game schedule, look at how intense that became for pretty much the same squad of players, by the way, minus a couple. You know, so it's just one of them. We were really thin on the ground then, and we really struggled then going into that season, after we obviously exited the Champions League group. So you've also got players like, I can't believe I'm about to say this either, but like Sven Botman, who seems to pick up a little niggle every now and then. I mean, I'm hoping after a summer of rest he should be fine, but it's players like that need sort of protecting as well, and appropriate backup and things like that. So yeah, I really do hope yesterday showed the owners like, yeah, we need to really support this man now, because he can only do so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Those 2 players I mentioned, they're fantastic squad players, and they epitomise what Newcastle United are about. So definitely think they should stay, but starting lineup, it's questionable. But yeah, I just thought I'd end part 1 with obviously fantastic. We got Champions League and a cup under our belt. Newcastle's are now a much more attractive proposition for players. It looks like Isak's going to stay. But Manchester United versus Aston Villa. Have either of you seen the disallowed Aston Villa goal? Yeah. I'll start with you, Nick. What are your thoughts?
If that was against us, as in if that was given against us, disallowed against us, I would be absolutely fuming. I feel like Villa have been, I mean, obviously kind of happy it did happen, but I fully feel sorry for Villa there. They've been a bit done over. The keeper, it's out of the keeper's hands.
Yeah, 100%.
It's out of the keeper's hands. He's lost control of it. Doesn't have control of it. So I don't understand why that's been just. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that's just Man United getting what they want.
Do you have the same thoughts, Jo?
Pretty much, but for once it favours us. Yeah, but put it this way, I did say that if that had happened in the stadium yesterday, for us, for example, the place would have exploded, because, and rightly so, especially when you watch it back, I think the place would have exploded anyway, and that's just on, you know, when you just see it singly. But I think when you watch it back and you see replay after replay and angle after angle, and you think, well, at no point did the keeper even have control of it. So it's not like he had control of it and lost control of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a fumble in NFL terms or anything, but it was literally the ball was kind of there and it tapped each hand, and come on, it was a goal. If we're going to be honest, it was a goal. But at no point are we going to complain about it, because it's favoured us massively. So thank you very much for being awful, ref and VAR. And favouring Man U, like you say.
We take it. Obviously, Aston Villa, I'd feel sorry for them, but honestly, I say every club has that 5% of idiots that are in their fan base, and I think theirs are more unbearable than almost any others, maybe except Arsenal. And I do have a clip from TalkSport where one of those idiots has wrote a letter. So let's listen to that.
For the attention of the PGMOL and Howard Webb, not only have you cost Aston Villa £100 million, you have cost us in our battle with PSR. The same battle that we have every season. You have also destroyed Aston Villa's chance to play Champions League football again, which would attract bigger talent and help us keep our better players.
Honestly, it brings a tear to the eye.
Oh gosh,
Doesn't it?
passive tissues.
Tear of joy.
Very emotional.
It's in the feels, that one.
Everyone's favourite villain, Gabby Agbonlahor there. I do understand where he's coming from, and he does go on to make actually quite a few decent points. But when you act like such a prat on TalkSport like he does, to have something like that released, and by the way, that sad track in the background wasn't something that I added. They added that, and he knew that was happening. So
that's awful.
To be that much of a prat, it makes it very sad. And to be honest, I love it every time. But with that, we're going to go into our first advert of the evening, and it's much better than Gabby Agbonlahor. It's Bioniq.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Absolutely cracking stuff. So, on to something that wasn't as good. The match. We'll get into the actual game because this is supposed to be a review. Newcastle started with I don't want to say a back five because it was a little different to what we saw against Chelsea, Arsenal, so to say. Botman, Shaw and Byrne all together. We said in the build-up, we didn't think that should be a case. Back four. Everton, they were going to let us have the lion's share of possession. We saw that as well. I think we had 63, 64% in the end. But I thought having that three in midfield would give us control. But generally, I thought Everton were the better team in the game, and Newcastle, our most dangerous moments seem to come from set pieces. What do you think, Joe? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, pretty solid analysis, really, I'll be honest. It was just a poor game, but they were the better team that's, hold our hands up. And how many times have we said this season that we have been the worst team or not got the right results when we've ended up having more possession? So there we go. There's just another game where it's happened. So we just weren't very effective. There was a lot of sloppy play, a lot of missed passes. Just no unity in the players. They just didn't look, I don't know, almost comfortable or something.
Yeah.
Nice long word I'm going to use here. They look very discombobulated. So yeah.
Ooh, very big word.
It's a nice one, isn't it? It's a good one. It's a big word for a hangover.
Get a big number and Scrabble that one.
Ooh, absolutely, isn't it? But they did. They looked exactly that, didn't they?
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a game that unfortunately, kind of the longer it went on, it almost looked like we would have never scored if this had just kept going on and on and on. So
I agree.
I think it's just a disappointing kind of end of the season in that sense, because you just expected them to come out with a bit more oomph, put it that way. That's all.
100% agree. And I think one reason why we haven't really seen that oomph in recent games, and it's a testament to Kieran Trippier, actually, that right-hand side of that Barnes and Murphy pivot. Obviously, Nicola, you weren't able to see the game yesterday, but it's not that much different than what we saw against Arsenal and what we've seen previously when those two start together. Do you think it's just one of those where the experiment hasn't worked with those, and when we get in a new right winger, we'll probably change that completely and we'll never see that horrific pivot of Murphy and Barnes again?
We've said it before though, haven't we, where I don't know if it's a Barnes issue, not a Barnes issue, but as in he's so up and down in form. So he'll have 6, 7, 8 games on the bounce where you're like, wow, he was so worth the money that we spent on him. He was so worth it. And then he'll just then go back on another sort of a 6, 7, 8 game of being like, why did we spend that money on him? He's so, and I feel sorry for him because when he's on his day, he is fantastic. But when he's not on his day, you have games like yesterday, and I have watched a few highlights where he's so underwhelming. And it must be frustrating for him as well. I don't want him to be listening to any sort of negative comments and feeling rubbish, but it must be frustrating for him as to why he's so in and out of form. Will we see that? No, I think once we get that new right winger in, we probably won't see it as much as what we see now. I'll be honest, but it depends on who we get, if we get one, and it depends on Eddie really, because he tends to do this thing where he'll bring a player in and not put them on straight away. We've seen it with Lewis Hall, we've seen it with Osula, we're seeing it all the time. So might just be one of them where we have to experiment a little bit. and maybe be patient.
Yeah. 100%, and it worked with Bruno, it worked with Tonali, it's worked with Lewis Hall, so maybe it works with Harvey Barnes as well. And to be fair, what happens with Harvey Barnes is very much going to depend on the player that was hooked at half-time against Everton, Anthony Gordon. To be honest, out of the three on the attacking players on the pitch at the time, the three in the forward role, should I say, a lot very attacking players, but I thought he was the most dangerous, although he was up against Ashley Young, who is genuinely older than some granddads in the world right now. So maybe, just maybe, that isn't too much of a... It's not too much of a positive for Gordon, but I was very surprised to see him hooked at half-time. Do you think maybe the rumours are true that Gordon's on his way out, or do you just think it's one of those where he's probably got a niggle, he's not really up to full fitness, and we've just had to play someone because, we're really short in those kind of areas? What did you think, Jo?
I always try to look on the positives and think that it's not him on his way out, or we have talked about Gordon and his kind of strange form, let's call it, recently, and I do like to think that it's got nothing to do with the fact that he might be wanting to try and get out. I mean, God, watch the summer happen and prove us completely wrong. I mean, I hope I'm not, because I don't want to see him go, but I don't know what that was about, because I do agree that he was not the worst of the front three. I thought Barnes in particular, off the back of what you've just been talking about, Nick, and I think you would have agreed watching it, that Barnes, and I even said during the game, was particularly poor yesterday. The guy next to me bleated on and going, this is all on Murphy, and I had to keep my trap shut, which I did quite well after too many rums. But the point is, I thought, yeah, all right, he made a mistake, slip up for the actual goal, but the whole game's hardly on bloody Murphy, you know what I mean? The team as a whole were playing poorly, you know what I mean? It was hardly just down to one player. And like I say, I think Barnes in particular was particularly poor, which means unless something else has happened that we don't know about at half-time, he was having a niggle, something like that, it was a strange substitution. But because we don't know why it's happened, it's all just us guesswork, isn't it, really? So...
Yeah, to be fair, it is worth noting as well, for those sitting here thinking I'm trying to send Anthony Gordon out the club. He was tackled quite heavily by 2 or 3 Everton players in that first half, some of which got fouls deliberately and some didn't. There is also one where he dives on the floor and it's absolutely pathetic. Ashley Young doesn't touch him, but less about that because I don't like talking about those kind of things. But yeah, so he could have picked up a knock, and it could have just been that. Obviously, we'll find out more in the summer. But I want to end part 2 on a dampener before I go all the way up to the positivity in part 3. And it's a pretty damning stat, in my opinion. In our last 6 games, when we've needed the team to show up the most, when 11v11, we've scored 3 goals. 2 of which have been back post tap-ins, and the other has been a penalty from a stupid handball against Brighton. The rest was scored when other teams were down to 10 men. Ipswich and Chelsea, both at home. And we all said that the performance those days weren't particularly up to standard. So not really at the standard we'd expect. Performance issues affects all of us. Except Zencastr. I've heard Zencastr have no performance issues at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the old Zencastr advert myself because I love them so much. And it's not the fact that I forgot to ask someone to get it up at the start of the episode.
Not at all.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And we're back. Michael. That's a lot of my voice and a lot of improv. The improv king, should we say. So the season's done. People don't want to hear my voice much more. 67 points. Only the 5th time we've had over 65 points in the Prem since 1997. First domestic trophy in 70 years. Is this the best season in your memory for Newcastle United, Nicola?
Yes, Queen. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh,
no, I'm joking.
okay.
I know, I was just like,
Come on. If we could all sit here at the beginning of the season, which I'm sure we all did, and say, by the end of the season, you're going to win your first domestic trophy in how many years. You're going to qualify for Champions League football. You're going to have probably one of the best strikers in the world on your team, the best midfield three on your team. We'll be all like, yeah, okay, we'll snap your hand off. So I've logged onto social media this morning after being disgustingly drunk last night, and I couldn't even read a message on my phone. So I logged onto social media, and nothing new, no. And there's a few people that are obviously disappointed about the performance yesterday. Totally agree. But there's also the minority, and I think I'm just going to go back to what you said, Michael, where every fan base has about 5% of idiots of fans who are moaning that we finished 5th. And we should have finished higher. We probably should have finished higher, but why are you moaning? We're in the Champions League football. We're in Champions League football. So
2nd and 5th doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference. We've secured Europe. The only difference it would make is if we were battling between 2nd and 1st. Then you would be annoyed. So
it's a couple of mil. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think it's definitely on memory the best season that I've experienced for Newcastle United. Anyway, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. It actually makes me a little bit emotional thinking about it.
Right, well, we'll move away from the emotion because we've already had the emotion at Gabby Agbonlahor. We don't need any more. Jo, what do you think? Best season in your memory?
Yeah, and I've obviously got a few more years on you guys, so I can even. So yeah, basically. No, I mean, obviously, come on, we've had some amazing times, and I was young when the entertainers were around, and don't get me wrong, like those were some fantastic memories and stuff like that, but we didn't win anything, and I think winning that trophy we were so desperate for. We've discussed it so many times that it's just been unreal, man. And like you say, to top it off by finishing the Champions League, the only one, strange enough, that I would give it on par with is the 22-23 season. And the reason I say that is me and my dad still talk about it. We went to every game together that whole season, sitting pretty much in the same seats because the ballot was a lot easier back then. Oh, sorry, it wasn't a ballot, was it? So sorry, we particularly sat. So yeah, anyway, we used to sit right by the strawberry corner, and we just went every game, and it was just the kind of overall emotion. And again, obviously, I know we qualified for Champions League that season, which obviously topped it off. But it was just an unbelievable season. It just was. So very that is, season. Strange enough, my second favourite. So yeah, this one now is pushed into first place because of the trophy win, because, come on, it's undeniable. But exactly. Yeah, come on. Unbelievable, right?
Happy days, 100%. And I think that season we finished 4th the first time. It just wasn't expected, was it? We were sitting there going, imagine if we could get into the Europa League. That new Europa Conference League. Oh, we could win that. That could be our first trophy in so many years. And to get Champions League and then play PSG, Borussia Dortmund, and AC Milan, I'm looking ahead to next season.
We're going to next season, Michael,
I've got the chant in my head. I've got the chant in my head. But yeah, to do all that, it was absolutely fantastic. But obviously at the end of the game yesterday, there was one particular player who was a bit solemn, tears in the eyes. And that was someone that maybe I've been a bit harsh on criticising over the last year, and that is Callum Wilson. It looks like it's brought the end of Callum Wilson's contract. There are rumours this morning. I've seen that he will be offered a new contract. I'll be honest, the way Wilson was at the end of the game yesterday, that doesn't tell me he's expecting to get a new contract. I've never cried at extending my career somewhere. When I've been offered a role at my job, I've thought, oh, thank you so much. Or maybe that's just me. But yeah, 49 goals for Newcastle. Shame he couldn't get the 50th. He's been a fantastic servant. Summarise Callum Wilson's time at Newcastle in a positive way. Nick.
He was the light at a particularly dark time for Newcastle United, wasn't he? Let's be honest. He brought a little bit of hope back into us as fans, the team, and was probably, I don't know, he was my favourite player at one point. He was genuinely my favourite player at one point. Refreshing. And was everything we needed at a really bleak, horrible, minging, honking Mike Ashley time. He was everything we needed. He's been a great servant to Newcastle United. You can't take that away from him. It is just such a shame, as his body's just not capable of keeping up with the sport. and it's just such a shame. But yeah, he has been incredible, and obviously if he goes on somewhere else, or I don't know, I wish him all the best. I just think for Newcastle United, the right thing to do is to move on now, because he's just not getting the game time, and he's not the player this season that we've seen in the past. He's way past it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. To be honest, it could be a case that Callum Wilson, his body just isn't cut out for Eddie Howe's style, because we've heard from many players, Howe pushes you 150%. When you reach that older age, it's a lot harder to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I can barely run 10 minutes now, so I'm only 28. Aye, 28. So yeah, I can only imagine how he feels. My mind's gone. But he could still potentially, I think, do a job for another Premier League team or a top-half Championship team, should I say. What do you think, Joe? Hey, you could do a job at
Barcelona, go on.
Go on, yeah, you can go off to Barca, you'll be fine. But oddly enough, yeah, when Nick was just talking there, I was thinking, as she was saying, and bang on, that he just isn't cut out for that kind of level and intensity anymore. His body isn't, obviously. His mind is, because he's a very clever footballer. He's a perfect number 9 in my eyes, which is a real shame about the injuries, because he's a proper, like a Shearer was a proper number 9, you know, like just a proper old school style striker. He'll get those goals. He's got some amazing goals for us and some very important goals for us, and this is where we'll never forget him. So it's not like we're all sitting here going, oh, get him out, he's crap, he's no good, and all that sort of thing. We'll always appreciate what he's done for us, and he can actually go on, and absolutely agree, he can go on and do a job somewhere else, because he just maybe has to do it at just a bit of a lower intensity that his body can handle. Come on, he's not like he's 35, 36 in retirement. I know he's in his 30s, but, you know, he's not at the very end of his career, is he? So I think he's still got some time left in him. And if managed correctly, maybe he can get a bit more game time out of it. But the way we play, it's just no good for him. Simple as that.
No, I think you summarised that perfectly, to be honest. And I think without Callum Wilson, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think without Callum Wilson at Newcastle, none of this actually happens. Sort of what we've had over the last 3-4 years, because 22-23 was absolutely unstoppable. But you think, Nick, you mentioned it earlier, a shining light in a very dark tunnel under Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce, and I can think of only a few other players like that. Jose Perez was for me a little bit. Alan Saint-Maximin as well at the same time. But without those two, Wilson and Saint-Maximin, we'd be in the Championship, and the Saudis would have ended up buying probably Spurs or Everton. So, the timing's right for Callum Wilson to move on and get regular first-team football. Hopefully it's somewhere like Leeds, where I think they'd love him. We can't forget all the fantastic moments he's given us, as you say, Joe. But he's not the only name leaving on the free transfer. Obviously, we do have the awards tomorrow, but then we don't really know what we're going to do too much afterwards. So, do just want to mention Jamal Lewis, John Ruddy, Mark Gillespie, Jay Turner-Cook, Max Thompson, and Joe White are all likely to leave the club in the summer. For the youngsters, it's an exciting new chapter. But for Lewis, Ruddy, and Gillespie, I've got no idea what's next for them. So that's 7 players that are leaving. I think there's going to be more. And what I want you to do to end the episode, and I'm going to start with who looks the most terrified. Nicola, it is.
I'm not very good at this.
I know.
I'm not very good.
Nicola, give me one more player that you believe will leave Newcastle United this summer and not see our best Champions League campaign of all time.
Joe Willock.
I thought you weren't very good at this.
I know.
To be honest, I agree. Cracking answer.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you...
Joe Willock.
Do you give me one as well?
I was going to go for Willock or Bonds, so because she said Willock, I'll be slightly different, go Bonds.
All right, there we go.
Because I don't even want to think about the fact that it could be the likes of Isak if someone comes in with a £140 million bid or something.
That's the interesting thing. Liverpool are apparently going for this Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen, great player. Not really the number 9 that they're after, but there's rumours of that being 150 million. If you've got that, why aren't you going for Alexander Isak? Or have they been told that Alexander Isak is worth more than 150 million?
Yeah,
because
it's just not happening.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Alexander Isak is staying at Newcastle United. You've heard it here first. And we're off to the Champions League. That's all from us. We've got the awards ceremony tomorrow, where we'll go through and say who we think the best players have been. I'm also going to check back into one of our original episodes and see what our original predictions were, and see how right or wrong we all were. You got 2 correct, did you?
No, there's 2 of them episodes. I'm saying we did it in 2 separate ones.
Yeah.
I can't remember who I said, so I'm actually interested.
I think I said that. God, what's his name? Lloyd Kelly was going to be.
Oh, you did, Nick. You're right, because I think we laughed at you at the time.
I think Eddie Howe's going to do wonders with him. Oh, he did wonders with him. He sent him away.
He did.
Hey, to be fair, that's a signing of the winter by Juventus. They won rid of him.
I know.
But for more fantastic predictions like that, and more wrong predictions like mine, because I know exactly what mine were, and they were dreadful in comparison. Yeah, chat back tomorrow. For now, we'll see you later.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.